Hey everybody, welcome to Before College TV Live. I am here today with a dynamic panel from the University of Pennsylvania, also known as Penn. Panelists, can you hear me?
Yes.
And you can see
Yes.
me. This
Yes.
is great. Now, I've done a lot of these, and I know that this is going to be spectacular because I know that you are all just unbelievably interesting and have unbelievable stories. You're all over the country. Let's just go full circle. You go to school in Pennsylvania and Philadelphia, but where are you right now? Morgan, where are you?
I'm in LA.
And then let's see, Ashna, where are you?
I'm in Phoenix, Arizona.
What's the temperature today?
It's 110, so
110. It's a beautiful day in Arizona. Will, where are you?
Also Los Angeles.
You're in Los Angeles. And Will and Morgan went to high school together, correct? But you were not close friends.
No, not in high school, but in college, yes.
You have formed a friendship. Isn't that something when people aren't that close and they go to college? How did that happen? Did you guys plan on being friends, or did you just think, oh no, like Will's going, or oh no, Morgan's going, what are we going to do? Like, how did this thing develop?
Honestly, I didn't really know Will very well in high school. I think we had a few conversations, and our friends were friends with each other, but we were never really close. And when we got to college, I think we just planned some lunches just so that we could meet up with somebody that we knew and get comfortable with the campus and know that there was somebody else that we knew.
Nice.
And then a friendship grew from there.
So you planned the lunches over the summer before your freshman year?
I would maybe more just like during freshman year. Like we've had 5 people that went from Brentwood, our high school, to Penn, and
Wow.
when we got there, it was sort of like we want to go catch up with everybody, especially people who maybe we weren't the closest with in high school. We had a small school, well, smaller, like on the order of 100 people in our grade, so you know everybody. But in college, you know, when it thins down and you only have a few people from your school that followed you, you want to catch up and reconnect, and people change. And, you know, look, a friendship with Morgan and I started, and we didn't have one in high school. So, yeah, things
Wonderful.
happen.
Right. So I was also curious, like, do you make that happen? Do you say, hey, Morgan, do you want to go to lunch? And if you say that, is that like, whoa, Will's asking me to lunch? You know what I mean? Or is it like, is it just natural? Or is there like some thinking of like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think at the beginning it was more like, oh, like it'll be nice to catch up with somebody who knew me before I got to college.
Right.
But now it's just a normal thing.
Absolutely. Well, that's nice. And I think for anybody who's going to school with someone who they kind of know, the idea of just being a friend or just being an acquaintance, being a friendly face is really important. I got sidetracked where everybody's from, just because I'd love for people to know you're all over. Tise, where are you from today? Where are you?
I'm currently in Duluth, Georgia, so it's a suburb of Atlanta.
Very exciting. And then Tammy, where are you based?
I'm currently in Raymore, Missouri, which is a suburb of Kansas City.
So you are all from all these different places, and you decided to go to Penn. And I know that there's a lot of people who really want to get into this place, right? Like was it easy for any of you to get in, or was it a little bit, did you have to work a little bit? A little bit.
You have to work.
Yeah.
And then,
just a little bit.
So I want to know who, and I'd love for you to be honest with me, okay? Let's not start by lying, because it's just going to set a terrible tone. So how many of you who are at Penn, let's be brutally honest, Penn was not your first choice? Was there anyone? We got Morgan, we got Will, we got Tammy, Tise, kind of. Ashna, you were in, kind of, because I imagine when people apply to Penn, they're probably applying to maybe throw in a little bit of Harvard, maybe some Yale, a little sprinkle of Stanford. I'm wrong. I couldn't be any more wrong. Okay, so kind of tell me an idea. Tammy, you had the strongest reaction when I said that. Your head jerked the most in opposition to my assumption. So tell me, where did you apply? And I'd love to go through this because this always fascinates me to see how you got
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I'll like explain a little bit of my background, I guess the reasoning why that Penn was like the only Ivy League that I applied to. Coming from, specifically the suburbs, in my community and my high school, there wasn't really a push to go out of state. There was more of a push to go to community college somewhere relatively cheaper. And so I honestly, because of that environment and also with my family's like financial situation, I decided, oh, well, I'll definitely apply to some safety schools in Missouri, in the Kansas, Missouri area, but then also try a little bit of a reach. But in terms of what I thought was a reach was just apply to one Ivy League and then maybe a few California schools. And then, my dream school last year I'm currently a rising sophomore. So I initially thought, and I really wanted to go to University of Michigan for Ross. But yeah, so it was very split in between everything, but it was definitely because in the end, it came down to just financial aid.
So your dream school is the University of Michigan, and did you get in?
Yes. No, I got waitlisted.
Waitlisted. So do you
Mhm.
feel, and you can all tell me, do you feel that getting waitlisted is more painful than getting rejected? Or is it, or do you feel better? Or does it not matter?
I guess.
Then you guys can all jump in.
Ahead.
I would say it depends on if you're waiting for that school, a decision from it. If it's a wait list and you have something better, you go, okay, I'm fine. If it's a wait list and versus rejection, and it's a school you really want to go to, and if you get in, that would be at the top of your list. The waiting is painful, and that can just be a very difficult process.
Absolutely. And Tammy, so you got in, you got into Penn, and then what kind of money did they give you? And I go right to it because, we just want to know, like, I mean, tell me the deal.
For sure. So since I am considered a FIGLY, first generation low income student, my financial aid was definitely relatively a lot more beneficial than maybe others. And so in terms of that, and specifically the money in itself, I think my parents and I would kind of like talk about it. And in the end, Penn was was the institution that really just helped me out the most, and also just gave me the most, I think, benefit in general, just overall, holistically speaking.
What was it between Penn and what else?
It was between Penn, University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and Carnegie Mellon University. So for those three, all of the financial aid that they gave me was pretty much the same. And so once I kind of figured that out and I kind of agreed with my parents, this is the X amount of money that we're okay with, providing for, my next 4 years, then it just came down to what I truly wanted.
Yeah. So being a first generation student, I know that there's a lot of students who don't think that they could go to many of the schools you just mentioned.
For sure.
And that's something, we can go deeper into that, but I just want to understand, as a first generation student, how did you even believe and get to the point where you realized you had all of these options?
Yeah, I think it's really difficult to kind of figure out, this kind of healthy mindset of, oh, I can do anything, I can try to do all this. Because again, considering the fact that I didn't have a lot of, people around me, specifically my community, that could help me, because obviously they're not used to this kind of mindset either. They think, oh, let's just stay here. And so it was more so the support from my parents, and also just believing in me and being like, hey, like, you could go here, just try. And I think that's kind of the motto that I kind of live toward, is just, put forth the effort, and you never know what you're going to get. So
yeah,
that's kind of what I did.
That's awesome. And one of the things I always like to do during these conversations is check in with you all and make sure that if somebody has a question who's watching this, if there's a middle school student or a high school student who sees one of you and says, you know what, that's who I want to be, and you are my hero, or they just want to ask questions, are you open and available to them asking questions? So is that clear? So let me just make it really clear, because I include this in the video. I like to say all of these panelists are open and inviting you to ask them questions. They've got their social media. It's not going to be weird. It's not going to be strange. Is that true? Morgan, is this true?
For sure. Yes.
Ashna, is this true?
Yeah.
Will, are you open and available to answering questions?
Yes.
Tise, what about you?
Definitely. Yeah.
Tammy?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay, I just want to make this so clear because there are so many people in so many students' corners, and you all are from have a different perspective, which is really cool. So Tise, and I'm saying Tise correctly, right?
Yeah.
I'm like
Touche. Yeah.
nailing it, right? I got
Yeah.
it.
You're doing
It's,
well.
it's like right. It's like we've been friends our whole lives. Okay, and I say it like Tise, just
Yeah.
rolls
Like,
off the
what's
tongue.
up? Yeah.
Right, like this is all familiar. So how did you end up at Penn? And we'll go through, and I'd love everyone to share that piece because
So I think the reason why I was more like, whether you asked me if it was like my top school was because kind of similar to Tammy, I didn't think I was gonna get in. I like applied to
why?
others. I I don't know. It's just like when you're going through high school or like you watch all of these like things on media and you see all these different things and you just hear it being the top of the top. And
Yeah.
like I went to a really good high school. I went to a boarding school that was a prep school.
The Taft
so-
School in Connecticut. I
Yeah.
think, right?
Right.
I'm reading that right.
Yes. So it's called the Taft School. And so a lot of the kids there are really, really smart. Like I didn't make cum laude. Like I made good grades, but I wasn't the top. So I was like, oh, I don't think I'm gonna get in. And the only reason I applied to Penn was because my parents told me to. Like I wasn't looking at it for myself. And so when I wrote my essay, I would not suggest this to anyone, but I wrote my essay like the night before it was due. Like I didn't think I was gonna get in. So I focused my energy on other schools. So
You
my
didn't
top
care.
schools, no, I cared. I just didn't believe in myself. So I wanted to put my energy towards schools that I thought I had a really good chance in. So my top schools at the time were USC and NYU. And I ended up getting into both. But
Right.
when I got into Penn, like I realized that like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Was there anybody else here who didn't think they were good enough and was worried of not being good enough?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Morgan, you had a big, all of you. So everybody who goes to Penn doesn't feel good enough. I know it's a big general statement and I can't make a blanket statement like that. But Morgan, tell me about your dream school, and were your dreams shattered or did you ultimately get to live your dream?
Yeah, so basically I went on a bunch of college tours when I was a junior just to see what I liked. And I ended up really liking Tufts, which is in Boston. And it reminded me a lot of my high school actually, which is why I loved it so much. And I put a lot of my time and energy into applying for Tufts, and I really scared my parents because they thought that if I didn't get it, I would be super disappointed, which was probably true. And so they sent me on another college tour literally 2 months before all the applications were due, and they sent me to like Northwestern, and they sent me to Penn and a few others. And I ended up really liking Penn and calling my college counselor and being like, I don't know what to do because Tufts is my top choice, but I don't think I'm going to get into Penn if I don't apply ED. But I think I can be happy here too.
So for ED, for people who aren't familiar
And
with
my college
ED,
counselor urged
Yeah.
me to think about it.
yeah. So for people who aren't familiar with ED,
Sorry, yeah.
what are
ED
the
is early
stakes with
decision.
ED? What does that mean?
Sure. So ED is early decision, which means that you apply early to a school, and if you get in, you have to go. And there's early action as well, which is you get in and you can still look around and still apply to places, but ED is you have to go. And I ended up deciding that I was really nervous that I wouldn't get into Penn if I didn't apply ED, and that I would be upset if I didn't have the chance to apply. So I applied ED and I got in, and that's kind of.
And
how
was
it
that a
went.
good feeling, or were you like, oh crap?
I was shocked. I my parents took a video of me getting accepted, and I just like, my eyes are very, very wide, and my mom is screaming in the back, and I just don't know what to do with myself because I was just very confused.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I knew I was going to be happy wherever I ended up, and so I think it worked out.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we'll learn more about you. I know you're really involved with you are very involved. You really wanted to go into the science, I believe, right? And then I think didn't you change your major? Like
I
you got
did.
there and you got your butt kicked.
I did. I was pre-med through and through, and then I took a math class and a neuroscience class, and it kicked my butt, and I dropped it, and now I'm really happy with my major. But yes, I went through a lot of classes that I did not like.
Well, it's interesting because you had your junior year. It sounds like you were going to be at Tufts, or maybe even like the beginning of your senior year. Like you were going to be at Tufts, you're going to be pre-med, and you are not living anything you thought you were going to live.
Not at all, and it still worked out. I think people
Yeah.
end up where they're supposed to be.
Yeah. And I think that's a really important lesson for people who are watching this, that it's a journey. And boy, does that sound like a cliche. I have to stop myself because it's so stupid. It's a journey, and forget that. You know what I'm saying without me saying it. So let's see. Will, you are nodding your head in agreement that where you are is not necessarily where you thought you might be. Tell us how you ended up at Penn and where you are now.
Sure. So I applied originally. My top sort of favorite schools were Caltech and MIT. I'm a big tech person. I am in computer engineering. I knew that from the beginning, computer science or computer engineering was going to be my field, my major, et cetera. I knew that from early on. It was just a question, of course, which school, and I aimed for just the top tech schools. I didn't get into either of them. I applied EA. That definitely like hurt, but
Let me just take a step back. To get into MIT and where else was it? Caltech? Where was your other? Right, like
Caltech.
Right, these are places that most of the world doesn't get into, but clearly you're a smart guy who's used to having success. So getting rejected, how did you process that?
Well, I definitely had help from a lot of my college counselor and my parents and support around me to basically say that, like you're sort of saying, it is a journey. And, there's more options, more things I can apply to for regular decision, and wherever I'll end up, I'll make the most of. And definitely looking back, that's been absolutely true. I would not trade if I like could go in the past and get into MIT or Caltech, I would still choose Penn now, looking back. I am very, very happy where I am, and I absolutely believe in you at like where you end up, you can make the most of, and can definitely, I think schools kind of do make good decisions about who they accept.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you say if you can go back in time, you would choose to make the same choice, because Will, I actually have some information from MIT today that they would like you to transfer, and they are willing to give you a sweet deal. They'd also like you to be head TA of their computer science course, their largest computer science course. And I have the documentation right here. What do you say, Will?
No, I'm staying where I am at Penn.
That's so frustrating. I'm sorry to hear that, but you know what? I'm glad. Will is also one of the things Will does, and I'm going to share some of your leadership positions. And when this posts, people are going to see some of the places where you guys hang out on campus. But Will's head TA for one of the largest computer courses at UPenn, CIS 120. Everybody knows CIS 120, right? It's legendary.
Yeah.
And anyway, he's deep in that. So it sounds like, Will, you really found a place to really articulate what you love. You'd say that's true?
Absolutely. I like teaching a lot. Being a TA, I think it's one of the best ways to engage with others, learn more about the material yourself. It also, it's a big group of TAs for this class. This class gets to over 300 people, and we have 40 TAs.
Oh, wow.
So I have a lot of people I interact with. Just doing that, and same thing for clubs in general, you get to meet people that can become, this is really important in engineering, but lab partners, right? And just friends in general. And it's definitely a social environment that was created out of becoming a TA.
Yeah.
I love engaging with students. It makes me a better person, a better student myself. And I love hearing about different people's backgrounds and perspectives and ways of thinking.
Yeah. Well, you sound like the best TA. I mean, you sound so friendly and inviting, and the opposite of someone who's going to judge me. You're just going to help me, which I think is intimidating when you are so, when you're a high achiever and you're in a place where you're surrounded by high achievers, it can be intimidating. So to have you, Will, be so open is really comforting. Ashna, you've been so patient. Are you a patient person?
Yeah, sure.
I can tell you're so chill. Like, do you know, I know you know Morgan. Do you know anybody else in this panel discussion?
I do not.
I'd like to introduce you to Will. Will is really into computers, engineering. He's a fantastic and nice person. Morgan, what would you say about Will? Because you know Will pretty well. Actually, you know what? Let me do this. Morgan, if you are kind enough, because Ashna doesn't know Will and Tise and Tammy, can you do an introduction and just share a little bit about the character of each person and why you find them to be interesting people you like to engage with? Would you be open to that?
Sure, yeah, lots of pressure though, but yeah.
With the other panelists, are you okay with Morgan sharing some details about you, savory and possibly unsavory? Is there anything off limits? No, I don't think so. All right, Morgan, let's help people to understand the rest of their panelists here and introduce Ashna, please.
Sure, of course. So Ashna, I actually met through Bloomers. She is a cast member. And I was in the room when she was called back from auditions. And she blew me away. She's very talented and very funny and low key about how funny she is.
Yeah.
She also runs a radio show, which I've wanted to be on. And sadly, I couldn't be on it because of COVID. Yeah, she's just super talented and in a lot of stuff. And I admire her because you're right, she is so chill. But she's also just really fun to be around.
Yeah, that's great. And just so people know, Bloomers is the female sketch comedy troupe, and it's a pretty selective group, right? It's not like everybody gets in.
Right.
Yeah. So
The year Ashna auditioned, I think around 60 people auditioned and 4 got in. So Ashna is definitely very talented.
Wow, Ashna, that's fascinating. I did not know that. Okay. So then tell us a little bit more about the rest of the group here, please, Morgan.
Okay, I'm gonna go in the order of my screen. Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Hi, Tammy. I'll go for Tammy next. Tammy and I actually, we met in our Chinese class this past semester, which is super random. And she always sat next to me, which was so nice. And we always chose to be partners. I think mostly because I chose to be her partner because she's really good at Chinese and I wanted help. But she's really sweet. And I usually don't meet a ton of people. I mean, I meet a ton of people in classes, but I usually don't connect with them as easily. And Tammy was just so easy to connect with and talk to. And I just always wanted her to be my partner. So yeah, I thought she would be great on this panel.
I have to just jump in. Tammy, did you feel like Morgan came on too strong, wanting your help, or did it come off natural?
I actually remember the first day of Chinese class when I met her, and she like introduced herself, and she was so bubbly and sweet. And I remember like thinking like, oh, this is gonna be my one friend in this class. Like I'm gonna try to be her friend. So I think everything worked out.
Right, that's great. And I wouldn't assume that you would come off too strong. I think, Morgan,
Thanks.
It's really powerful to introduce yourself. I know a lot of students really struggle doing that, especially in class, and to find someone who seems really nice and smart. Clearly it's continued to reap rewards in terms of a friendship. So anyway, all right, please keep going.
Sure. So I guess I kind of introduced Will a little bit, but Will and I knew each other in high school, and then we definitely got closer throughout college. And we have no activities together whatsoever. We don't do anything that is the same. I'm not interested in computer science. He does not like theater or anything I do, but we both support each other a lot. He's been to every single one of my shows. And if I could show up in one of his TAing classes, I would, but also I can't because I will not take those courses. But he's my favorite nerd.
Oh, is that what you go by, Will?
Nerd?
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean,
Sure.
nerds are cool. That's a good thing to be. That's wonderful. You two look like you have a really great relationship. And then Tise, let's hear about her.
Sure. So Tise and I met through CHIO, which is a sorority on campus. And honestly, we weren't super close in the beginning, but there was one time where we went bowling together and then we got burrito bowls afterwards and we just hung out for I think like 2 hours, and it was just lovely, and she's so easy to talk to and fun. And she's also been to Korea, I think South Korea. And so I love hearing stories about that. And she speaks Korean like perfectly. She's won contests for it. She's literally talking to her is like talking to a superstar, because she's just done so much, and you would not expect it because she's very humble.
How do you learn all this Korean, Tise?
So Korean's one of my majors, so I'm dual degreeing right now. And when I was in high school, I got a scholarship to study abroad there. So I was there for a bit. I recently came back from there from last year. So yeah.
Do you dream in Korean?
No, I don't.
No?
Unfortunately, no.
But you speak fluently and beautifully, Scott. Wow, that's so fascinating. All right, Morgan, thank you for helping Ashna have a sense of the rest of our panelists. I know, Ashna, you were probably curious, wondering who are these people and their backgrounds. It's also a fun way to learn. So Ashna, tell me, how did you end up at Penn, and where did you think you were going to go originally?
Well, I was going to go to my school, ASU, because, you know, I live in the suburbs here, and like Arizona's a pretty underrepresented state, and not many people like go all the way to the East Coast. So it wasn't really like on my mind. Like I mostly applied to safety schools, California schools, and then like one or two like Ivies, and I think it was Penn and Brown. And I don't really know why I picked Brown, but I picked Penn because I'm originally from Pennsylvania, and I just applied on a whim, like literally no other connection whatsoever. And then I committed to ASU. I paid my deposit and everything, and then I surprisingly got in, and you know, my parents were really excited because like my dad went to school in Pakistan, so he doesn't really know how any of this works, but he was really excited. And then with what the school's offering and what I got in like outside scholarships, we were just able to make it work. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
People see the price tag for a school like Penn, and I haven't researched what the numbers are in 2020, but I imagine, you know, it's probably 70, 80,000, something in that range for the full room. I'm close, right? Pretty close. So Ashna, and this is a personal question, you don't have to answer, but for those people who are thinking, I need to stay really close to home and I need to go to the state school, how much in aid did you get? How much is it actually costing you to go to Penn?
Well, it is still costing a lot of money, but I do recommend that, like, no matter who you are, just everyone apply for financial aid, because just like not applying is just not smart, and you'll probably get more than you anticipate. Um, and to also like really invest in local scholarships, because local scholarships are kind of where it's at. They offer a lot of money, and they're relatively easy to get because like you're
Yeah.
competing in a local pool.
How do you know if they're legit for someone who wants some quick hacks and knowing they're legit? Can you give us something?
Well, I know a lot of people waste their times on those raffle scholarships, but on those scholarships, your chances are pretty slim. Like you're not going to get any scholarship that requires no essay, because obviously everyone's applying to those. So I'd say looking for scholarships that kind of come from reputable companies and offices, kind of maybe looking at what they're about, seeing like who works there, see if they require an essay, see if they require your transcripts and like other materials to kind of gauge for who you are. And you can kind of tell that those are more of the legit ones.
Tise, I want to just hit that essay thing. You said that you did your essay the night before. You wrote your essay the night before. Now, is that typical? Are you a procrastinator or are you a planner?
I am a procrastinator, true and true. So obviously with College App, they have the like one main essay that you need to do beforehand, and I needed to do that beforehand because my college counselor was checking in on me all the time. So I already had that done. The things that I didn't have done were the supplementary essays. And so, yeah, I did that, you know, the night before. turned it in probably a few minutes before midnight, and, you know, proofread it. It's very, I don't know, for me, working under pressure for some reason tends to help me produce results.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I dig it too. You know, I think the time pressure and not being able to go over something again and again creates an authenticity.
Yeah.
You know, for some people where they're just able to do that. Like I like improv and doing this live. You know, it's like this thing. I could probably have this conversation with all of you. We could spend a good 12 hours talking and go over this again and again. But to be in the moment is a really, I think, a beautiful thing, and to trust ourselves in that moment. And everybody has it different ways. But some of you are big planners. Tammy, what was your secret sauce? I know that when it comes to getting in, people want to know, like, how did you do it? What do you think your it factor was? Do you have an idea?
Yeah, thinking about it now, I think my it factor, specifically with my college like application, holistically, like in general, was definitely music. I am a musician and a percussionist, and so that was something, an activity that I really focused on for 4 5 years before the college application season, and I feel like um, doing this type of activity that I really love really resonated within my application, not only because of the fact that I could say like, oh, I did this continuously, but I also wrote that in my application essay as well. And so I think just kind of tying everything in really showed that, this was something I was passionate about, that I'm going to continue learning through college. And I think that was definitely the factor for me.
Yeah, and you ended up being, it looks like you're the principal percussionist of the Penn Symphony Orchestra.
Yes, I am. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's a wonderful accomplishment, and congratulations for that. What particular instrument do you play? I know
So
a wide range.
yeah, right. As a percussionist, you kind of have to know everything, and so I just play everything.
You make a lot of noise.
I do. Yes.
Yeah, that's your
I'm
thing.
a pretty noisy person.
Right. Or you're, you can manufacture a lot of that noise. When it comes to the places that give you joy at Penn, the places that fill you up, and this is for everybody, where you found your people, where you found your connection. I would love to know where that place is. So if there are other people who have similar interests, they can explore that. And since we were already talking about your experience as a percussionist, Tammy, we could start with that. I imagine that gives you joy playing.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's definitely, I feel like the orchestra and, where I rehearse at Irvine Auditorium is definitely what I call my second home. It's definitely a place where I'm able to just release all my stress that has been happening throughout the week, with exams or quizzes or anything. And I can just really be in the moment and be with, my peers that also are passionate in something that I'm also interested in. And so it's just a really good environment to be in. So, yeah.
That's wonderful. And then you made friends with Morgan through your class, through your Chinese class.
Mm-hmm.
That's another place where you made friends. Is there another place where you made friends, or would you say we hit the two?
I think the other one would definitely be the cultural groups that I was in. And so in my first semester, I joined CSA, which is the Chinese Student Association here. Because coming from, a predominantly white community, I wasn't really like into my own culture and, the way of life. I just kind of just hung out with my parents and talked to them in Chinese. And so coming to Penn, where there was so much more diversity than where I came from here in Missouri, I was like, this is a chance for me to really, learn who I am as a person, as a, an American-born Chinese, and really make friends that also have, similar adversities and experiences I am. So definitely, classes, cultural groups, and music was.
What's the name of that group again? The what was it?
CSA, the Chinese Student Association.
Okay, I want to make sure that we include this in the notes here, because anybody who's interested in the Chinese, the CSA, Chinese
Student Association.
Okay, it's so easy.
Yeah.
I'm just trying. I just want to make sure I get it here, because
no, yeah, for sure.
because I love that piece, and it's nice that you found that. So you found a few places,
Mhm.
which is great, and you're also involved with media and entertainment club, and
Yep.
you do a lot. Will, I know that you are a TA, so it's a teaching assistant. I know you're very involved, and you work with 40 other teaching assistants to it's in the, let me just make sure I have this right, and you can tell me, but in the computer science, within the computer science department. So Will, I assume being a TA is one of your places in the computer science department. Are there other places at Penn where you found, connection, community, friendship?
So a lot of classes in general, in my opinion, you meet people, which it seems to be very ranging based off the major you're in. But computer scientists kind of stick around with each other because the classes get really hard. So it either becomes everyone's against each other or everyone's helping each other. And at least at Penn, everybody tries to help each other. So you meet people there. I'm also part of a student organization called Penn Labs, where we basically make, a lot of people are nodding, we make the main apps that students use. So Penn Mobile is basically an app that you can track laundry and cafeteria hours and book basically study rooms. There's Penn Course Review, which you can go and see the courses that are available, etc. Basically, we build a lot of these apps that help students out, and it's by students for students.
Does that mean that since you are involved with that, if I need to get a washer and a dryer, I could maybe buy you lunch, maybe, do something to just get favor to do that? Do you have any access to any special privileges because you are involved with the infrastructure?
Um,
You know,
a little, but
there are some perks. Look at that.
there are some, yeah.
I'm saying that I'm doing this for other people because, for Tise and for, Ashna, if you want to get to know Will better, he could help you with that. The laundry, what was the other app that's like a really good app that's really valuable?
Penn Course Review, it's basically for any individual course, you can view the ratings of the instructor, course ratings in general, how good a course is,
Oh, and
it's
getting,
popular.
yeah, that's good. That's real good. And you're involved with that. That's great. And then is there another place where you found some friends, maybe some romance? I don't know if are you single, Will, or are you in a relationship, or do you not want to share anything about that part of your life?
I am single right now.
Okay. So you can meet people. Well, it's probably hard to meet people in the lab. You could probably meet people in the lab, but you're in the lab a lot. Do you have another place where you hang?
Just in general, like there's a lot of places on campus for, of course, libraries and stuff, but even other places where people kind of study and mingle, and you bump into people and start up conversations with people. And it's one of the most best and organic ways to sort of just make friendships. Yeah.
Nice. And I know that Ashna, I think I'm gonna save you for the end here. You're gonna be my grand finale in terms of places. But I know Morgan and Tise, you two know each other through Greek life, right? So I would imagine, tell us, Morgan, tell me a little bit about Greek life at Penn and how you found that, and were you always a sorority? Did you think of yourself as a sorority type of person, which is such a stupid way of saying it, but like so many people don't, some do. So kind of fill me in with that and some of your other places.
For sure. So to do with sororities, I never thought that I would ever be in a sorority. Harlan, we talked about this last time that I was on a call with you, but I had watched a lot of movies and TV shows, and I'd read some books, and sorority girls just seemed like one type of girl, and they seemed to like to party and a lot of stuff that I wasn't really into. And so I went into college thinking, no, I'm never going to be in a sorority. Why would I ever do that? I'm not like one of those girls. And I ended up meeting a girl through theater who was in a sorority, and we became very close friends. And she told me that I should rush because there's not just one type of girl in a sorority, there are lots. And obviously I liked her and she was in a sorority. So I thought, what the heck, why not? I'm gonna be upset if I don't do it, and I would have loved it. So I tried it out, and I ended up going to the Chi house and meeting a bunch of older Chi Omegas, and they were truly incredible. And the day that I went to Cayo, I was like, I think I have to be in this sorority, which I never thought I would say. I was like, whoa, this is like something I would never do. But I ended up really liking it. And sorority life on campus is pretty low key. I don't think that's the same with every college you're going to go to. But at Penn, it's a very low percentage of girls who join sororities. So it's not like you need to join a sorority. And I never felt like I needed to join to get that social clout, I guess. But I ended up joining and meeting a bunch of people and being able to find a home there. And that doesn't happen for everybody. But I was really lucky that it happened to me.
Yeah. And then you're also involved with your theater. And that was a draw for you. That was something that you had to try out for. If you didn't get in, did you have other options and where you were going to find some friends?
I was actually really nervous about that because I had gone into Penn, and during my tour at Penn, I was walking down Locust, which is the main walk, and I saw a group of Bloomers girls dancing and promoting their show. And I thought, well, there's a group of girls that I'd really like to hang out with and be a part of. So I actually wrote about Bloomers in my college essay, which is not smart because if I did not get in, it would have been very, very sad.
Yeah.
But I was lucky enough to get in. I had also auditioned for a dance group. I don't know if any of the people on this call know this. I auditioned for a ballet dance group on accident. I thought they were hip hop, and I showed up, and like 10 minutes in, they were like, all right, and everybody get into their splits. And I can't do that. So I ended up leaving mid audition and being really sad and being like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to join any other clubs. I totally failed at this one. And then I ended up auditioning for Bloomers and getting in, and I was really lucky. And then I ended up auditioning for a theater show that fall as well. So I was doing theater and comedy at the same time.
Right. And you're a rising junior, so you have a couple years under your belt, and you found these places. And just for everybody who's watching and listening, one of the things that I love about these colleges and these conversations is that you get to learn about these places. And if any of the places we've talked about and mentioned are things that are of interest to you, then reach out to the panelists here because they know about it. And they're, right now, I'll even date this. This is 2020, June, or they're going to be here for a little bit. And even if you watch this in several years and they've graduated, they're going to know someone and they can direct you. And the network at Penn is super strong. Tise, how did you find your people and friends on campus?
Yeah, I joined a lot of things because I just have a lot of interests in different avenues of things. So when I first got to Penn, I joined the Penn mock trial team. And so that was a pretty cool group of people. I also auditioned for dance. Huh?
Do they take anyone, or do you have to apply?
No, there was a rigorous application process. But I knew a friend from high school, and she kind of like guided me and gave me some tips on how to, get through the auditions.
Did you do it the night before? Did you fill it out the night before?
Honestly, it was more like improv than anything. Like they don't give you a lot of things. You just kind of show up and they're like,
okay,
we're gonna put you on the stand and answer.
Okay, I won't interrupt you anymore. All right, tell me the rest. I'm gonna let you just flow here.
My freshman year, I also joined a dance team. So we do hip hop. I don't know if Morgan knew that when she auditioned.
I auditioned for the wrong one, apparently.
Yeah, apparently. Yeah, so I've been a part of that dance team.
Penn Hype.
Penn Hype, yeah.
Right.
I've been a part of there. I've done some leadership positions there. So I was business manager, and now I'm social chair. I joined Cayo my sophomore year, which is kind of a little bit of atypical because a lot of girls join their freshman year, but kind of like what Morgan said, I'm from the South, and what people think of sororities down here is very different than what it was when I came to Penn, and I didn't know that. So my freshman year, I was like, I'm not joining a sorority. But then by my sophomore year, I realized that, okay, knowing people that are in these sororities, it could be a good fit for me. But also my freshman year, I joined a business fraternity called Alpha Kappa Psi. And I think that was one of the most influential groups of my Penn experience. We spent a lot of time together. They're one of the reasons that I ended up being a dual degree student, because when I came into Penn, I was technically IR, but that didn't work out. So
IR is what?
International relations.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah. I was technically IR, but being that they're a business group and they're mostly centered around, I mean, they have people from everywhere, but Wharton is very prevalent in the group. And so being around a lot of Wharton kids made me realize, okay, maybe I want to apply to be a part of Wharton as well. So because of them, I was also able to join Wharton. And then
that was freshman year. And does anyone have access to, it's Alpha Kappa Psi? Is that something you have to be accepted into?
Yes. So basically everything at Penn you have to be accepted into. I don't know why. It's just like
I feel like that's kind of sucks.
Yeah, it does, especially for like, I was very shy coming into Penn. And so sometimes it kind of sucks that you have to put yourself out, you have to put an application, and then there's a first round interview and maybe a second round or an audition. And I think it's one of the things that a lot of people at Penn talk about, like the culture of, you know, going through these auditions just to have an extracurricular experience.
Right.
Is kind of annoying, but I mean, there definitely are other avenues and ways you can meet other people, but it does kind of suck that these things.
Do a lot of people get rejected?
Yeah, there's like, I would say for my dance team, I think over 60 people applied and like, you know, like 10 people get in. For mock trial, I think it was over 110 or 12 people got in. Like, it's very small. Like, it's like you got into Penn, which is already hard to get into, and then you have to get into something else.
Yeah, and I think that piece, I'm curious to know, and Ashna, I want to hear your places in just a moment, and you might also be great at answering this. When it comes to being accepted, when it comes to being included, when it comes to having a history of being desired, is it hard to encounter the rejection and still move forward? Or do you question yourself and, you know, your abilities, and am I an imposter? Am I good enough? How did I get here? Maybe I'm like the lowest of the low and I barely got in. And you know, how do you manage that? And did any of you, I guess a better question would be, did any of you have a struggle? Did any of you struggle with that? And how did you manage that? Morgan, you seem to have had a lot of rejection, or at least a lot of doubt.
Yeah, I mean, not only did I mess up my dance audition, super sad. But so freshman year, I auditioned for every theater company that there was. I think there's 7. And I only got in to do one show. And the show that I really wanted to do was Heathers. I don't know if you know that. It's a very popular musical. I didn't get it. I got an ensemble role and I was really upset. And the girl who got the role I wanted, I was like, oh, I don't even know her, but she's truly incredible. And I'm actually living with her next year, which is nice. But no, you're always going to have to go through some kind of rejection, whether it's a college rejection or an extracurricular rejection, and you live with it and you learn and you move forward. But yeah, I did not get into everything that I wanted, and it ended up being the best of both worlds because I made a friend out of it and I'm living with her next year. But I also got to do another show that I probably wouldn't have known much about. So that was really cool.
It seems like, Morgan, you're really I don't know if the right word is, clearly you're smart and it's very clever, and I don't think it's something that you intentionally do, or maybe you do, but the people who are really high achievers, the people who are living what you want to live, instead of resenting them and pushing them away, you tend to bring them close to you so that you can learn and grow from them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why I invited everybody here today, because I admire these people, and each of them has a special quality that I definitely don't have. And I love learning from that, but also experiencing it and getting to be a part of their lives, for sure.
Is that scary, though, to approach people who are different than you? Are you worried about being judged?
I think everybody worries about being judged, and at the end of the day, you got to get over it and push forward and realize
it's easier
that
to say that than to actually do it. You know, it's like,
for sure. And I think it was something that I grew into. I used to worry a lot about what people thought of me, especially as an actress, because you go into a room where you don't know people at all, and you have to impress them if you want a role. And so growing up, I felt like I always needed to impress, and I was constantly being judged. And at the end of the day, I kind of realized like the only person who's really judging me is myself. And if I don't do all these things and meet all these people and try everything, I'm going to judge myself even more than if I didn't do it because I was scared.
Right. So just doing it, throwing yourself into it. Ashna, so throwing yourself into life at Penn, tell me, where are the places you have found your connection, your community, your joy?
Yeah, so I found a lot of community in the Asian community at Penn through Patch. I hung out there a lot. I joined one of their like mentoring mentees program called Peer, and we had like, you know, nights where we would make like Indian food and Pakistani food and just all types of Korean food. It was awesome. So just having that outlet and that little group of friends was really cool.
How do you know
I'm
about Patch?
sorry, what was that?
How did you know about its Patch? Is that what you said?
Yeah. Well, so there's three cultural centers in Arch in the basement, unfortunately, where we all share space. So we all kind of hang out there. It's a multicultural space at the moment, hopefully. But we are working towards getting like more cultural space, which we don't know will happen, but I do hang out there a lot. And I also hang out at the radio station, where I'm also a board member. I'm their graphic design artist, and I have my show, and I still have my show that I do on Discord. So we still found a way to kind of survive into now, and with Bloomers as well.
Right. And Bloomers is a really big part, and it seems like of life at Penn, with a long tradition. So you do a lot. Tell me again the acronym of the organization. It's P.
Yes, Patch, Paach.
You're also wonderful, and I don't want to keep you too much longer. I do have a couple more questions, and then we'll wrap things up. When it comes to a typical Saturday night, you know, a lot of students want to know, I'm at Penn, what's going down? Walk me through a Saturday night. Maybe someone who likes to engage in more active things can walk me through one, and then maybe someone else who's kind of a little bit more reserved can walk us through that. So, you know, you can jump on and take me through a Saturday night.
I can talk to a little, I guess. I think one of the reasons why I joined a sorority is because, you know, I'm like to be active. I like partying, let me be honest. Like, work hard, play hard is a good motto for me.
Right.
So basically, like, if you're a part of Greek life, you usually during the weekends, they have some sort of social event, whether that be a mixer or, you know, just hanging out with some of the girls in your PC, just like chilling, having fun and different things like that. Beyond that, like, if you're not in Greek life, which I wasn't, I mean, there's, for dorms, they also have like specific events in case you know, don't really want to go out and like do those types of things, especially if that's your first year. I think that's a good way to meet new people. Now I'm of age, I'm 21. We have bars on campus. We have places downtown. So there's like, I think that's one great thing about Philly is like we have our campus, but we also have a beautiful city to explore. That is the one thing I want to tell anyone that's at Penn. Like, please go outside of the Penn campus. There's so many things you can do in the city, whether it be Rittenhouse, whether it be like South Street, whether it be at the pier. Like, there's so many amazing places that you can go off campus. So yeah, that's what I would say overall.
Yeah, being near a big city, and plus you're also, how long of a train ride from Manhattan if you want to go there too?
Oh, so close. It's like an
Right.
hour and a half bus ride, and you can get it for like $5-10.
Yeah, that's crazy. I think that's also a really beautiful thing about being in a city and being where you all are. Walk me through a quieter Saturday night. Is there someone who doesn't party, and to say that you could party occasionally, but walk me through a slower night for someone who has a different type of idea of what they want to do. who would be the best representative
I
here?
don't
Ashna,
know.
is that you? Are you you
Um,
watching a movie and
well, similar to Tisha, I usually use my weekends to get out into the city, go thrift shopping, maybe hit up like, a nice park or, and just have like a little picnic. We've done that before and just kind of kick back with just like a smaller group of people is always fun. Like as much as going to frat parties are fun, just getting a group of 3, 4 people and kind of walking around Philly is also a really good time, and you'll always have things to do.
yeah, it sounds like you like getting off campus. And is a community, is it a safe environment? Do people have to be careful? I know that at one point that was a concern, but I don't know what it's like currently when you're walking off campus.
Yeah, it's really safe, and the SEPTA is very accessible. Love public transportation, and the Philly community is a very vibrant and amazing community. Another thing we like doing is going to see local stand-up comedians from Philly, and just like the community and the people there are all so interesting and amazing to talk to. So
You
I
go to
really don't think
clubs?
it's an issue.
Are you going to like comedy clubs or open mics?
Yeah, they're because Philly's a really great place for comedy as well. So like good comedy is one that we go to a lot where they have really cheap comedy shows.
Yeah, that's fun. What's your radio show on? What's it about?
My show, it's um it's called The Void. It's about me being in a void, and we just talk about life's biggest anxieties and play music.
I want to know your most uncomfortable experience at Penn, the time perhaps you thought you might have to leave, the time you were afraid because you heard sirens, perhaps it was a grade that made you question yourself. Everybody has those moments, those uncomfortable moments. Could be homesickness, could be just managing mental health, something that you would like to share, something that other people could benefit from. So, Will, your most uncomfortable moment, how you got through it?
Oof. I would say that my first freshman fall semester and freshman spring were probably hard to find friends for a while. A lot of my courses, like at those times, I didn't really, they were big. It was scary to be in a course with like 400 people that was most of my courses, and to go and meet people. So definitely finding friends at that time was hard. It was in the semesters after that I started getting into different clubs, into TAing, and that's when I started like being able to find people that, were to be friends.
Right. So it took you a good few months to really find some people, and that must have been a really hard time to be alone during that time, especially coming from Brentwood, which is such a tight community. Been there for most of your life. Would you say that's true?
It was only high school for me,
Okay.
but still, yes, a tight community. I had a lot of close friends at Brentwood, and
Right.
at Penn, you're thrown in to a much larger school, at least relative to the size of Brentwood, and it's just can be intimidating to have a class that is a larger size than literally like my high school. um,
Did you think of quitting or transferring?
no, at no point I thought of quitting or transferring. It was at least just still intimidating, but I
Right.
sort of just kept on going through it and said, okay, at least I'm enjoying like taking school and classes, but definitely like it can be stressful for a lot of people. And I can totally understand like feeling anxiety of finding people.
Yeah.
But it was really until I just sat down and said, okay, I'm going to go out and apply to clubs is when you just start like, and talking to people is when you just start like connecting.
Right. And when you put yourself in places surrounded by people, you form these relationships. And now you as a junior, uh, you've got an incredible network of people. So it's really nice to see over time what can happen. Ashna, your most uncomfortable experience and how you got through it.
Um, I guess like freshman fall, like the first few weeks were sort of like very overwhelming in that, the school was always doing something and there were like 20 events at the same time and I just didn't know where to go. But usually I went wherever there was guaranteed free food. Um, but most of my, I don't have a lot of family around the United States. It's just like me and my parents and my sisters, and we moved around a lot, and they're in Arizona. So obviously going across the coast was like, there's like no one to like turn to, but it ended up being fine. I just call my family.
You called them. That's how you got through it.
Yeah, FaceTime them, so it's fine.
Yeah. You got homesick.
Yeah, I got homesick, but I came back for winter break and I'm here right now. So, you know, it's good now. Like I'm here. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a hard thing. And I don't think people realize just how hard those first few months can be if you don't instantly boom of those people. Oh, I wanted to make sure, Ashna, with the group with Patch, did you have to try out or audition, or did they welcome you?
for peer, there was just an
Patch.
application and like, just demonstrating your interest, but
That's a place where you don't have to apply to get in.
there was an
Oh,
application,
there
but
was. I was so
like it was
desperate for
just
the.
like an app, but it was so simple. It was just like,
Okay.
tell us about yourself. Like it
Gotcha.
wasn't like really difficult, and I did it in like 10 minutes. So
Okay.
I mean, I don't know.
I got you. So, and I was thinking spiritual groups as well are places where you're automatically included. Unless, do you have to like take like a Bible test to do like a Bible studies class?
No,
No,
well, I don't know about that, but the MSA is very welcoming, and they welcome.
right. I was being silly. I'm sure they do. Tammy, we were talking about, this is our last question and we're going to wrap things up, is your most uncomfortable experience at Penn and how you were able to get through that. And I think I'll go to Tise if I can hear your most uncomfortable experience and how
Yeah.
do you get through that?
Honestly, I would say getting to like the first couple months of Penn weren't the worst for me because I was from a boarding school, so I'd already lived away from home for a while. I think one of the worst times for me, I think one time I had a project in my marketing class, and they put us in groups, and they were randomly assigned, and so I didn't know the people, but the people I ended up being a part in a group with were these guys, and they were all like seniors, and I was a sophomore at the time. And it was just kind of the worst experience I had in a group because I felt as though they kind of pushed all of my words and like all of my ideas to the side. And I felt very overlooked. And I was like, okay, but this is kind of like what the world looks like in terms of the finance field, like at the top level. I'm like, is this what I'm going to get myself into? Like, is this what it's going to feel like if I want to be in like an executive position in, later on in business? And so then I started to really like question like if that was for me and like if, like I could handle that type of pressure. But I think, I think at one point I called my mom crying actually, and I was like, they just don't care. Like people are just, they think I can't do it and all these things. But then I think my mom just reassured me that like, you can't really show your weakness and you have to like, you do your work right and they'll be able to see that you can do your work. And so
Right.
in the end, we did well on the project. And, although I would never pick to be in a group with them again, like, I think it showed me that like, even when things get hard and even when you think people are doubting your abilities, like you just do what you need to do and you'll be okay.
So these were seniors and you were a first year student?
I was a sophomore at the time.
You were a sophomore. So that was the first time it sounds like you really got rocked and had to question yourself and your abilities. And also being a woman, is that something that plays a role? And in terms of just also being a minority on a campus where people look different. And I'm always curious about that perspective too, because I know I get a lot of people who will watch these and say they really like hearing different perspectives from people who aren't the majority of the population.
No, yeah, I think being a Black female is hard in life, and coming to a college where it's majority white, it's majority, and like especially in the business field, it's majority white male. Sometimes you can feel out of place. You can feel as though people aren't taking you seriously. But I think one of the aspects that really helped me with that, I think I talked about it before, but AKSI is the business fraternity I'm a part of. When we were going through the process of becoming, you know, brothers of the fraternity, we had to go through a lot of like of practice of like, you know, how do you present, how do you interact with people? Like we had to practice coffee chatting, we had to practice like interacting with people. And so I think that definitely gave me a lot of confidence in my skills because I had to practice constantly. But I think at the beginning it was a little rough. You get hit with that imposter syndrome pretty hard, because you kind of see everyone, and some people are really amazing. Like they're like, oh, I started my business when I was in middle school. You know, I know how to, I've been in the stock market for 5 years and I'm over here like, I don't even know how to do my taxes. So I think after a while you start seeing what you're good at and you start seeing like what your strengths are, and then you're able to just feel proud of yourself and still feel like you belong there.
Yeah. When it comes to your race and when it comes to being a woman, a Black woman on a campus where you are a minority, do you have any suggestions to those who are interested in Penn and come from a similar background, on how they can frame this experience and how they can find connection and community so that they can have a strong foundation should they encounter, you know, challenges or self-doubt?
Right. I think that there's, you know, there's two ways in which you can do this. You could either surround yourself with, you know, most of the Black community at Penn, and there's like different places, like there's the Nigerians at Penn. So my parents are Nigerian. So there's Nigerians at Penn, there's Africans at Penn, there's just the Black community at Penn, and you could just completely surround yourself with that if you want to. And that's not necessarily what I did, but if you want to do that, like if that's what makes you feel comfortable, you can definitely do that. There's also ways in which you can completely, you know, like interact with different types of people. And I think that was just more of the way that I did it. So some of the groups that I'm a part of are maybe majority Asian and majority white, and so I was able to hang out with these different types of people long term. And so I became more comfortable being in different situations that I may be the minority. And so I think at this point, I'm just more comfortable, like, I'm like, okay, I'm different. And so what, like, that doesn't really matter to me anymore. And like, there's so many things beyond just race or beyond just gender that you can connect with people with. And I think that's what being a part of these diverse groups showed me, is like, yes, we may look different, but oh, look, we love the same artist, or we both have a passion for this language, or like different things like that.
Yeah, I think that's really wonderful. I've been really fixated on the idea that people are rejected before they even breathe or speak, based on their gender or their religion or their ethnicity. So with that piece, you know, really helping people to know the path and how to find that, because it exists. And I always want to be a source of light and connect students with those people who are there, who know how to work through that. So I'm really grateful for that. Morgan, I think that you are going to be my last uncomfortable moment and how you got through it. And then we'll conclude this. So tell me, where did you feel that massive discomfort, and how did you get through it?
Oh my, I do a lot of things that are very uncomfortable. I'm very clumsy. I fall a lot. I just can embarrass myself very easily. So I think there are a lot of uncomfortable moments to sit through, and especially with performing. There have been so many lines that I've flubbed up. And there was one time where Bloomers was at Carnegie Hall and our music completely cut out and we had to sing the rest of the song, which was very embarrassing, looking back on it. But I think my most uncomfortable moment was a week into my freshman year. I had never been to a college party before. Harlan, sorry, you already know this story, but I had never been to a college party before. I'd actually never really been to a party. I was like the high school kid who liked to stay home and study and like call her friends and then go to bed. So I decided that it might be a good idea to try a college party. And I was really, really nervous, and I ended up bringing with me a thing of mace. And usually I carry it in my purse, but I didn't want to bring my purse because I was scared somebody would steal it. I don't know why. And so I just held it in my hand to a college frat party in a frat basement, which is disgusting, by the way. And I had a lot of people come up to me and ask, like, hey, can I hit your jewel? And I had to explain to them that it wasn't a jewel. I had brought mace to a frat party. And I think for me, now looking back, it's super funny, but at that moment I was so uncomfortable and I didn't know what to do. And I was just worried about how people would look at me like, who's this girl who brought mace to a party? And it ended up being fine. And I actually made a great friend through that who thought I was jeweling and didn't like people who were jeweling. So ended up avoiding me the entire party. And then turns out it was mace. So we became friends. But yeah, I think there are going to be uncomfortable situations anywhere you go. And if you can make the best out of those, then you'll do okay.
Yeah, I love that. Do you still carry your mace?
I do. I actually have it like
Right now?
I could pull it out of my purse. I
Let's see the
could.
mace. Can we see that just before?
Yeah, you can. Also, I've never gotten stopped at an airport with it ever.
Interesting.
So if TSA is watching this, this is
That's it. So it looks like a jewel. Yeah.
If you're a little drunk and not paying attention and really want a jewel, this could look like one.
Yeah, that'd be bad. That'd be really bad. Be an interesting story.
So open. So that's
yeah. Wow, that's great that you have that. It's good to be protected. Well, if anybody has questions about mace and the best mace, Morgan can help you with that.
For sure.
We have had a dynamic conversation. I know Tammy dropped off here. Sometimes that happens. I want to just, again, repeat, are you all open and comfortable with people asking you questions? Yeah, just give me a thumbs up with that so we can see, like, legit. Yeah, that's so kind. I want to thank you, Morgan and Will and Tise and Ashna and Tammy. And if anybody has questions about any of the things we've discussed, let us know. These have been students from the University of Pennsylvania. I am Harlan Cohen. This has been Before College TV. I'm grateful to be here and thrilled that I can be in your corner. Thanks, everybody. Have an amazing rest of the day.